You gotta need to tone that down a little bit. Maybe edit that out, Mark.
We both just got done working out, so I'm like...
It's like when you have no concept of the volume of your voice, the magnitude of it.
Yeah.
So, little change of pace here, huh? You probably don't like it, do you?
No.
Yeah.
No, I do a change.
Who's the boss?
Of the you. Let's just get one thing straight. It's you.
Oh man.
How you feeling, Josh?
I'm good. Good. It was a good workout. Go ahead and ask. What makes it a good workout? Ooh.
Yeah, so you said
because I got sweaty.
Right before we got started, I said it was a good workout. You just said it was a good workout. What made it a good workout for you today, Josh?
So to me, not to point listeners back to old podcasts or anything, but to me, a good workout is one that stays in alignment with my intentions. And one of my intentions with exercising is to continue progressing. And I definitely saw progression within today's workout. Of course, I do like to sweat. I think it is good for the body. Cleanse of some toxins. Had some za last night.
From Marcos?
Nope. And here's another hint. Mango habanero wings. And still cranked the 129 on the last interval.
I knew I liked you, Josh.
So, seriously though, that's how I would define a good workout is I'm in here being true to my intention.
Nice. I thought it was a good workout because...
Sorry, that was rude of me. I should have asked. Mark, why did you think it was a good workout?
It wasn't rude. I was going to tell you anyway, whether yes or not, as evidenced by where this conversation is going. I normally coach Wednesdays. Abigail coaches on Mondays. I coached on Monday this week, so Abigail coached today, so I was able to do the workout with the class. I love being able to come in late, a minute late, and work out.
It's like 3 minutes late, but...
Oh, come on. Okay. So now you're encroaching on my area too, so I'm like, where do I go from there?
This is my area. It's all mine.
I like working out with the class, heckling some people here or there, just having some fun. It was good energy today, and music was good, and like right as you were getting up into that last interval that we were doing an interval workout, we're all starting together, everybody's excited, everybody's doing better across each interval, which was the goal, so everybody's happy about that. So it was just the energy in there, like everything culminating leading up to that last one. It was just good. And then I like the movements. The movements were fun.
Did you set that song up to come on? Because I saw you messing around with something up there at the computer system.
Well, there was some Pitbull on, and man, I get down with Pitbull. I really like Pitbull. But then, before the last interval, I was like, I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna put something on that is exciting. And so I went up there, scrolled real quick, and found that song, which actually it was the same song that came on for the last interval at 5:30. And so it's exciting, cool. It's fast, and so I was like, we'll do this again. And so it was, that made it exciting.
Yeah.
But so it was just a good workout. I like feeling the progression too, based on what I felt challenged, which I always want to feel challenged when I work out. I don't want it to be a walk in the park, but I don't want it to be like, man, this is so hard, I should just give up working out. But I felt challenged enough to where I was like, okay, that was a great workout today.
Yes. So, since we're talking about the workout today, I know this wasn't a question per se from a listener, but it was just an observation that I had down here in our notes for today. One of the most impressive things that I've seen lately, and I failed in sharing this from the Bright Spot Friday post this past week, but I'll go ahead and share it today, was when we did this workout last week, it fell on a Thursday, and today's Wednesday when we're recording, but it fell on a Thursday last week, and it was the beginning of this new week of progressions. And the first week of the progression, which some of the people did today, was every 4 minutes for 16 minutes of 4 rounds of this workout. The goal being that you maintain consistent times, or with each interval just get a little bit faster. And I took a picture of the board because every single person in class last week, and we had a big class on that one too, every single person got faster every single interval.
That's
and
awesome.
that was like executed to perfection. And we've been doing a lot of this type of work where we're being much more specific with the stated intention and the why behind it and all those things, which is good. And it takes people time to kind of figure out what their gears are, what their pacing should be. So after months and months of work, with folks doing this, it was neat to see it all kind of like all the stars align. And today, with just a few interval exceptions, it was the same thing. Like nearly everybody got faster with every single interval. So I thought that was a really cool highlight, and I think it is a good thing for people to celebrate that. Okay, we're doing the work necessary to get better and better and better.
Yeah, not only that, but we're seeing people like improve on their times across. So like if you were here last week across 4 intervals, if you did it today across 4 intervals, if you did it today, the second progression across 5 intervals, and so they're adding volume too, right? So they are increasing difficulty in 2 ways: less rest and more volume, and we're still seeing them progress and get better across time. So it's really cool to see that, and see that, like you said, after months and months of practice, that like things are really clicking with people, and they're grasping it really, really well. Myself included. I say that as though I'm a master at it, but it's something I need to improve on as well. And so it's really cool to see that. It's really cool to apply it to other workouts we've been doing too, like whether it is like, because on the days we're not doing these progressions, it's either a Saturday, which is always going to be a longer duration, like partner type fun workout, a shorter duration day during the week, and then a longer like aerobic recovery day that we have. And so it's cool to see people apply it, to those workouts as well, especially like the shorter duration one, like ones that would typically smoke people. Like it's cool to see people like strategize a bit more and pace it and benefit from it. So I like seeing, that's what I like seeing, is like the learning applied.
Yeah. So I'm reminded, I was on a call yesterday. Tuesday's the day that I'm on a call with like another 100 coaches or so across the world, but I was reminded of something that I actually talked about back in October, I think it was, because I'm searching for the way that I kind of take notes for myself is I'll think of something and I'll email myself a note about it to just get it out of my head, but then also be able to revisit it later. So I searched for the email, and it was back in October when this kind of idea popped into my head, and we talked about it on the podcast, but is this thought that learning to do sustainable work because it is sustainable, and the inverse of that being, well, why would you want to learn how to do unsustainable work? And so all the things that we've been doing to really educate and teach people how to be sustainable through these intervals or get just a little bit faster, then whenever we kind of open it up, and I don't want to say the floodgates get open, but we're kind of removing a little bit of the restriction of the interval. Like, I think it was Monday's workout that was 5 rounds per time of dumbbell step up and dumbbell snatches. So we remove that restriction or boundary of an interval-based workout, and we say, okay, let's see how you apply what you have been learning in that restricted sense. Can you do it in an unrestricted sense? And so learning to do these sustainable behaviors, is it going to happen in 3, 4, 5, 6 months? Probably not, but you can see the seeds are starting to like take root and germinate just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because looking around when I was doing the workout on Monday with the group, I could see like, oh, okay, people aren't going out like gangbusters like you might normally see in years past. It's an intelligent approach. It's a sustainable approach. It doesn't mean that the workout wasn't fast and somewhat intense. It just meant that it wasn't like this huge surge of power at the beginning of the workout, and then you just tank and suffer for the rest. It's just kind of this build into it, and you're trying to maintain that power for as long as you possibly can until you hit that wall, which is when the workout is done and you're completely done. Like, that's a pretty perfectly executed workout. So to see all the fruits of those labors on behalf of you guys as the coaches come to fruition is really cool.
Yeah. Not to call back to our podcast again, but we talked about people that want to do intense work, how can they do it, and talk about earning it.
Right.
And so if you mentioned in years past, people would kind of just go out of the gates, really, really fast. They'd go out really hot, and they'd end up paying the price in any type of workout it was. So if we were doing a lot of 7-minute AMRAPs, or 8 minutes, or even 12 minutes, or even 20 minutes, nobody would finish faster than what they started in. everybody would start way faster and finish much slower.
Yeah.
Versus now we're arguably doing a lot more interval type work. A lot of, you could call it intensity management, but really that's just code for sustainable work. And we're seeing it, like you said, the fruits of the labor pay off in these shorter duration workouts. So I guess what I'm trying to say is doing this intense work doesn't get you better at intense work, but we're seeing that doing this sustainable work is how you earn and get better at intense work if that's something you wanted to do. And I think it's cool to draw the comparisons right now, early on into this, because I mean this is only the second block. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what we're going to look like as fitness enthusiasts, to call back to our previous podcast.
Yes.
A year from now, it's going to be pretty cool if that intense work is something you'd be interested in.
And that I want to insert this, and if it aligns with not just, I see it, I want to do it, but does it serve you in a way that aligns with your function as well?
Yeah.
Cool.
We kind of already hopped into it. Let's do current events or upcoming events real quick.
So I know we'll talk about this later, but I'll hit it now. We do have the Snatch Plank still coming up on Saturday, February 27th from 11 to 1 with Coach Gene. I know we've already had a handful of people sign up, so if that's something that you want to either A, get exposure to, or B, work on a little bit more, then definitely sign up for that. It's not like if I was running it, it'd be, hey, circle around, I'm going to show you this PowerPoint for the first 30 or 45 minutes, and then maybe we'll work a little bit. But thankfully, Gene is a much better coach in terms of getting people hands-on, so it is going to be a working clinic, hands on the barbell, very involved coaching, much more time to be coached in that very specific singular movement instead of trying to shoehorn it in to the class setting or something like that. So that's why you're seeing a lot more of these. So that's really the only event that we have coming up.
That's it, man. I think we already got a couple people signed up. That's pretty cool with it coming up in a couple weeks. So
yep.
Anticipate that only getting better.
Perfect. All right. Question number 2. Is it? No. Question number 1. That was the upcoming event. Question number 1. The always popular, we'll see if it gets some hits in the chats today.
Yeah.
About music. So this one isn't so much what should we play or what is played or anything like that. This is really the behind the scenes. Does music make a difference? And meaning, does it make your workout better? Does it help with the mood of the gym? Does it put you in a better headspace? Like, does it make a difference, positive or negative? If the wrong song comes on, does it do something to you? So, what are your thoughts, Mark? Does music make a difference?
It depends.
Okay. Of course it does.
So I got a lot to say. I'll try to make it brief. And I'm not.
I do got a hard out at 11:30 today. So.
Okay, so we got 56 minutes.
That's right.
I haven't read your notes, so
perfect.
If I say anything that's on there, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I think it depends. I think it depends on who you are as a person. Some people like me, man, I respond real positively to the music. Like I mean, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Go ahead. You might get into it.
I respond really positively to the music. For example, if I'm doing an interval, like lately I have been doing just like stationary bike, longer duration intervals, because that aligns with my goals, by the way. But I've been doing that, and it's been helping me, I guess, just kind of stay mentally engaged. It gives me something to focus on as well as the task at hand. But funny enough, I don't particularly like listening to music when I do work or when I'm doing any sort of like studying or reading or anything like that. Anyway, I'm that type of person. I think I'm fairly influenced by the music, but I'm not the type of person where like Taylor Swift comes on, no hate on Taylor Swift, but if she comes on during the workout, I'm not the type of person that's like, hey, change it. Like, I'm still going to get the work done. I just would prefer it to be in an enjoyable atmosphere. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why I like the music.
So you're saying Taylor Swift doesn't set an enjoyable atmosphere for you?
Maybe Shake It Off, but not this new stuff.
It's a great song. Real quick, I want you to expand on something if you would,
Yeah.
not to interrupt your train of thought, but you said that you were someone who you think responds positively or favorably, maybe is what you said.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean? Like, give me some examples, like responding favorably or positively to what's being played in your mind.
So I get pretty animated in that, like, even when I was coaching the 5:30 today, or like in the workout we just did, we were talking about an exciting song that came on towards the end, and like I'll stand there, I'll clap, hey, I'll go along with it. If I'm in the middle of doing something on my bike at home, if a good part of, like, I've been listening to like these mixes, I've sent you some mixes. If I like a part that comes on,
the Idris Elba mix, that's a solid mix for people.
Yeah, right. I'm bobbing my head back and forth. I'm getting into it. Sometimes I'll talk to myself. So it's just something so it's just something that'll get me a little bit more animated, a little bit more engaged, I guess you could say, if that answers your question.
Okay.
Not that I wasn't, but it does just add a little bit of fuel to the fire. Versus there are people like, this classic example always comes into my head, like old school CrossFitter from back in the day, Josh Everett. And
I'm so glad you're telling this story, because I was going to if you didn't.
You'll probably tell it better, but you tell it, because what workout was he doing? He was doing something like Fran or something.
No, he was doing Karen. No, it's not Karen. Oh,
Kelly.
He was doing Kelly, 5 rounds, run 400, 30 box jumps, 30 wall balls, and somebody came up and, now this was pre like AirPods, iPods, all this stuff. So if he was going to listen to music, and he's doing this in his neighborhood driveway, if he was going to listen to music, you might not know what this is, but he might have to be carrying a Walkman. Walkman, do you know what that is?
Walkman.
Carrying a cassette tape or a CD player, a portable CD player.
Walkman.
Or a big speaker on his shoulder. But no, so he's being interviewed afterwards, and the guy says something like, hey, I noticed like you're not wearing headphones, like, don't you listen to music when you work out? He goes, no. If you need music, to motivate you, go do something else.
And there's videos of him working out, doing long, crazy workouts like that without music. And it's just him, and all you hear is
that's it. Just heavy breathing.
And it's pretty cool to see. So those are kind of the two extremes. I know you asked me a couple of questions earlier. You said, does music make a difference? I said, it depends. There's a lot of research. I mean, I feel like every undergraduate research study that comes out has to do with music and affect, so music and mood when you're exercising. There are always people studying it. There's countless research articles behind music and its impact on exercising, and it all kind of just depends on the person, depends on the music you're listening to, depends on a whole lot of factors. BPM can make a difference. I don't know if you made that note, but beats per minute.
I did.
Beats per minute can make a difference. Like if you listen to something 60 BPM versus 180, it's gonna impact you physiologically. So I don't know. I think it really depends. Do I think you're a bad person if you prefer music and you prefer good music when you're working out?
Yes.
I'm
just kidding.
No, because I'm one of those people. Do I think you're a little irritating if you are picky about the music you're listening to? Yeah, a little bit. But that's my opinion. Overly picky, because I understand like some songs come on, it's like, hey, I would prefer to not listen to this, but if you're like, change it every song.
Don't be that guy.
That's what I mean.
Don't
by
be that person.
Yeah. Because I understand we all want to work out to something that's enjoyable.
Yeah.
Right? We all, but. So go ahead.
So I'll kind of like do a quick little recap for folks that haven't really heard the music piece or the music talk about CFG before. So we have some very stringent rules with regards to the music that we play, the music that we don't play, why, and all this. So it's not just like, oh, well, this is what Josh likes, and so that's what's on the playlist. A small part of it, yeah, but the vast majority, 99% of the reason, is not that whatsoever. The first reason that we have a very specific playlist is because it offers some semblance of control for us. And one of the elements of control that is so important to me as the owner is that it is reflective of our values, what we're founded on, and all that. So, again, as a recap, if you've not been in the gym and seen the giant logo that is on the wall, if you can't see or know that that is a cross, like in there, that should tell you a lot. So first and foremost, we are Christian owned and operated. So that really helps form the basis for our core values, how we operate, the things that we do, the things that we don't do, so on and so forth. But it also helps us set the precedent for what music it is that we're going to play. And kind of the rule of thumb that I always tell people is, look, if you wouldn't play it with your sweet little old grandma ride down the street in the car with you, I'm not talking about Betty White, I'm talking about the good old-fashioned grandma sitting next to you, jamming out. If you would play that with her in the car, now I know there's the outlier. Oh, my grandma listened to gangster rap back in the day, or my grandma did. I'm not talking about that. And just stick with me here, the middle ground. All right. If you would listen to it with that person with you, then we're not putting it on the playlist. So that's number one. Number two, if the content of the song itself is not such that you would want your 6-year-old or your 8-year-old child to listen to and hear, or would you be comfortable reading the lyrics to them and explaining what they mean and the innuendos and all that, we're not going to have it here. And please, by all means, because I know people like to point out where somebody has faltered or to shame them. If you find that oh no, I've heard this song at the gym and that's not appropriate, let me know and I'll take it off. I'll be the first one and the fastest one to take something off that is not appropriate. So there is that. Why is that important to me? Because number one, we're rooted in faith, and number two, because I have kids and I want to know that if my kids come up here in the gym, that it's going to be whatever is playing, I'm going to be comfortable. I know that they're going to be safe in whatever it is that they are hearing.
Right.
Not only does that matter to me, it matters to a whole bunch of members who have told me to my face and loud enough such that maybe some of the naysayers in the gym can hear it too. Like, hey, you know what? I want you to know how much I appreciate the playlist that you have curated for your gym. One, because I know that my children are safe to be in here and we're not going to hear something explicit. And two, because I've been to gyms that don't have a playlist curated like you do. And I didn't realize how much I appreciated yours, but it turns out I really do. And that means a lot to me. So that's that. Now, let's get to the actual question at hand. Does it make a difference? Yeah, as you said, it actually does. The research says that it does. The research also says that it probably doesn't matter, because I think the thing that matters most is, what is your intention? Are you using it as a reason to be grouchy, or as a reason to not push as hard, or as a reason to push harder? If the music has the power over you to do that, then your intention, your why, your deepest why, is probably not that well rooted. So I would say that. So there are a lot of different learnings that you can take away from different types of music. For instance, and this is where the part where it's like, it's my gym, and I don't like country music. So I don't want that playing in the gym because of the way that I've learned that it makes me feel when it comes on. Yeah. So and that's a 10-year running joke on country music. So sorry for those folks that like that. We've been through that experiment. It went horribly, and we're not going to bring it back. So I think that people would be very well served to spend some time learning how they respond to different types of music through different workouts. So like you said, if you're doing a workout that is really hard, intense intervals, you might want something that is going to get you a little bit more amped up than others. If we're doing a long, sustainable piece of work, 20, 30, 50, 60 minutes, or I'm going for a walk or something like that, I probably don't want to hear 180 beat per minute, EDM, like that's not gonna work. So, or it's not going to be in alignment with the task at hand. It doesn't mean that you can't do it, because we have it come on all the time in here whenever we're doing longer duration work. For me, what I have noticed is that I actually when we're not into the clock is running, we're doing some continuous work, say we're doing some skill work or some strength work, that's probably the times that I actually hear the music and pay attention. But as soon as 3, 2, 1, go happens, I'm in my head and I really don't even hear what is being played. Like today, I noticed that a new song was changing over right before, and that's why I asked you about that, right before that last interval started. And I was like, oh, cool, this is a good song to finish out the last, 90 to, 75, or excuse me, 90 to 115 seconds of this workout. Mm-hmm. As soon as it was 3, 2, 1, go though, I stopped hearing anything.
Yeah.
And it's usually because I'm very, very involved and aware of my breathing, my movements, my transitions, the way that I want to execute. So the music for me becomes secondary. Some other things, so it can help you stay on target with specific intention. It can help you become aware of how easily you let distractions creep in. And you kind of touched on this. You're the guy or girl that in the middle of the workout is like, change it, change the song, my goodness. Like, all right. Your issue is not the music. Your issue is you.
Yeah.
Like, if you're that triggered, stay off social media because you're probably going to have some issues about being triggered. So
if you're that triggered, you're probably on social media too much.
Yeah, get triggered. So, but all jokes aside, it can help you become aware of how easily you let distractions creep in and disrupt, what you should be focused on. We talked about what the research actually says. Yes, it can help. And then there's also plenty of a body of research that's like, well, no, it's really up to the person to decide if it helps or hurts. And then you kind of hit on this, but they actually use this pretty heavily in the endurance community. So a good running cadence for people to try to maintain that kind of promotes good, healthy foot strike underneath the middle of the body. Good healthy turnover and gait fixing and all that. If you can settle on 180 beats per minute, of like, so every beat is like your foot hitting the ground again. So if you can settle on that, that will actually help promote good running patterns. So if you can find a song that hits on that, now that's a really quick cadence song, but that can actually help you stay on task and with intention for the movements that are at hand. So, does music make a difference? Yeah, for sure it can. So one of the other things that we think about for the collective, for the group whenever they're in here is we're not trying to satisfy, because it's impossible, just the one person that's in here. If you want that, schedule some personal training when the gym is completely closed, and hey, we'll put on something again, first and foremost, as long as it aligns with what we said at the beginning. And then you can pick a song up. I've done that with PT clients. Whenever, if we're the only ones in the building, what do you want to listen to? I don't care.
Yeah.
If I'm the coach, as long as it aligns with the first couple things that we said. But beyond that, we have to certainly be aware of it's not just an individual. And it's not even about the group. It's also the patients that are in here with exos and the stuff that is going on behind the scenes with them calling patients on the phone and all the other things that make up the operation of the gym as a whole. We do have to be conscious of that too. So, but if you're looking for a good playlist, search, Coaching for Glory on Spotify?
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's probably like, how many songs on there?
I
don't know,
think,
a couple thousand maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. It ends up being, I think, maybe 40 or 50 or 60 hours worth of stuff. I don't know. It's a lot. And I'll tell people that. I'll be like, yeah, it's like 40 or 50 hours worth of songs, or, like you said, 600 or 700, 800 songs or whatever. And they're like, why do I hear the same stuff every time I'm in here? I'm like, I don't know. But imagine us.
Well, yeah, that's always the go-to joke for me is like, yeah, you guys hear it maybe, once or twice a month, maybe once or twice a week. There was days when I was here for sun up to sundown, I heard the same songs, and this is back when we had a really small playlist.
Yeah.
Like I heard the same song multiple times in a day. So I feel for you because I've been there.
For 9.5 years now, almost 10 years you've been hearing the same music.
Yeah, and again, we always say, don't complain about the music. If you don't like it, just submit something. And don't give me, this artist. No. I want the song.
Yes.
Don't give me the whole album, because I'm not going to go and listen to the whole album. You want a song? Tell me the song.
And we'll vet it.
Yeah. You have to do the work first, and then we'll go behind and vet behind that. But yeah, if you want to grow the playlist, by all means, contribute. Don't just consume. Be a contributor, not just a consumer.
Ooh, there you go.
Cool.
Make your mark on
Bam.
PG with your music.
So I can't tell if it said, it shows like 2 people like viewing. Is that just me and you that are viewing?
I don't know, because I keep switching back and forth to see if we get viewers, and it says there's
Okay.
2. So if you are viewing this, if you are listening, just type something or send a reaction or something.
Yeah, Allie gave us a heart.
Oh, she did?
She did, yeah.
Good. I was talking to Paula yesterday, and she was like, "What time is your podcast?" And I was like, "Glad you asked, 10:15 in the members only group." So maybe one of these is Paula. So if that's Paula, hello. If it's not, hello, whoever you are.
Yeah, whoever. Rob is usually pretty good about poking in there. He'll make fun of my coloring, lack of vitamin D, or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's in there today.
Yeah. Now we got 3 people. I wonder if that's just one of you or me.
Oh, we got 2 thumbs up. Who is that? Who is that? We got another thumbs up.
I'm not seeing these.
Oh, man.
I'm not
Sorry,
seeing
Mark.
these.
I don't know who that was,
I'm
but
gonna hit that refresh
yeah.
button.
Oh, Melissa's able. Sheila's in there.
Hey.
Look at that.
Yeah, got
Love
that. Okay, cool.
Cool. All right. So, what's next?
Next, ooh.
Better settle into this
Yeah.
next one because I see what's coming.
Yeah, this is gonna
Nah,
be.
skip.
This is gonna be a big deal. Let me just adjust this
No.
chapter marker. Okay, so, Josh.
Yes, Mark.
I need to turn the chair. Josh, what do I need to do to prepare? This is a listener question. I'm pretending to be a listener. What do I need to do to prepare for the Open? How will I be prepared for something like clean and jerks and power snatches in the Open if we don't see that in our programming that much anymore?
So, typically, we will do a answer, like a short answer recap at the end. But I'm gonna go against the grain today, and I'm gonna give the Cliff's Notes version of this answer right up front. So, if you hear this, you're like, boom, I've heard anything I need to. I don't want to hear these guys ramble on for the next 30 minutes. Then, cool. Then log out after this. So first, what do I need to do to prepare for the Open? Cliff's Notes answer. Number 1, talk to your coach.
When?
Well, ideally, you should have talked to your coach that if you know what the Open is, you've presumably been following, you've seen all this stuff, you know when it's coming, all that kind of jazz. You should have talked to your coach months ago. Because then, and just like this, we're having a conversation, we could have sat down. Hey Josh, I know the Open's coming up. I'd really like to be as prepared as I possibly can. Okay, cool. Why don't we check in on some of the highlights? If you participated in the Open before, we can see how you did. We can see what you've been doing currently because we can look at the program or the programming that you've been doing, look at your individual design, so on and so forth. But yeah, ideally, you should have talked to your coach months ago. In a not so ideal situation, talk to your coach now. Okay, so what do I need to do to prepare for the Open? You should have either A, talked to your coach, or B, you should talk to your coach as soon as humanly possible. And not in passing, not in, oh, hey man, I've only got 3 minutes, I gotta make sure that I'm just prepared. No. Set up a time. Trust me guys, I'm the owner. All the coaches want to spend some time with you and have a conversation. And it's going to be longer than 10 minutes. It's probably going to be like 60 minutes because you need time to stretch these things out. All right, so that's that. What else do you need to do to prepare? Basics. Again, still the Cliff's Notes answer, even though we're going on, 2 minutes now? Just be consistent. Be consistent in whatever the prescription is that your coach gave you. If it was training 3 days a week, be consistent in that. If it is prepping your meals on Sunday, be consistent with that. If it is going to bed 3 minutes earlier, be consistent with that. Whatever it is, if it's some sort of stress management protocol that they gave you, be consistent with that. The reason why that seems like such a simple, just basic, like, oh, he's just throwing something out there, like he doesn't care, answer is because it's the truth. The basics are what is going to continually, sustainably, move you forward and allow you to progress. It's not the Instagram worthy, sexy answer that's going to get a bunch of likes and comments and buy this program and follow this thing, but it is actually what is going to work. So just be consistent. And the other reason is because presumably what you have agreed on to do with your coach, it was a collaborative effort that said, this is the process that we agree is going to get me to where I want to go. So by being consistent, you are trusting the process, not just in your coach, but also yourself, that no, I came up with this plan and I trust myself that sticking to this plan is ultimately going to get me to where I want to go. So that's my short answer.
I bring the conversation back to something we talked about a couple weeks ago about Jay, and the original question was, is Jay an athlete? But you talked about the relationship that you guys had developed and how he originally reached out to you and said, here are my goals, here's what I want to do. He provided as much data as possible, and you guys got to work. And it took years. It didn't take days. It didn't even take weeks. It didn't even take months. Like after 6 months, Jay made it to the games. It took, he approached you in 2012?
I got an email from him either January or February of 2012.
So it took 4.5 years to reach the goal.
Yeah.
Which was just make it to the games.
Yeah.
4.5 years.
That's after we missed it by like 2 spots before.
Yeah.
Talk about a downer.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people could look at that, and I don't mean to go down this rabbit hole or interrupt you. A lot of people could look at that and be like, man, that's a failure, and that would drop them into the pits of despair. It's like, nope, we're still winning.
Yeah, because it's still progress and it's still sustainable. You're still moving forward. 4.5 years. So when you approach me or another coach or Josh in November and you say, okay, it opens in February, I want to do my best. It's like, okay, well, we're going to do the best with what we've got. That's all we can do, right? Even if you do it in September, even if you do it the previous February, be ready to subscribe to this process that's going to take time, especially with something like we'll call it a physical endeavor that is testing in the open. It's testing. And everything you do up to there is training. Everything. It's practice for the big game. People don't go to Super Bowl venues with 25,000 people that they had and all the commercials and the lights and the NFL experience once a week. It's like, no, they play 16 games leading up to that, plus the playoffs, to get to the Super Bowl. There's so much practice that goes into it, not even counting the practice beforehand. And not to compare it to athletes, professional athletes, because we're not, right? Going back to that. But if we're looking at this as some sort of physical endeavor or the moment where you're peaking, I think it does kind of shed some light on how you should treat this. And it's not like all right, you just show up and you're going to do amazing because you approached me 6 weeks ago. 4.5 years, I've never even thought about it that way, but 4.5 years it took from when Jay originally talked to you. How many people have ever talked to you and they've been like, all right, I want to reach this goal, and they've stayed with you for 4.5 years until it was reached? Right? How many people have been like, that's a long time. If you sat down with Jay, you're like, all right, it's going to take 4.5 years.
Yeah.
People would be like, what? No, I don't know.
I'm going down the road. Yeah.
So I know you gave the Cliff Notes answer. And I know you have more to say, but I just thought I'd touch on that there's a relationship that develops, and it starts with at least a base level of trust and acceptance that if you want to do well in something, you better be ready to, 1, put in work, 2, have the time to do so.
Yeah, I think this is something that internally we've been talking a lot about, but the coach really serves as the coach relationship really serves as the bridge for somebody to get, from where they are today to where they want to get. So your job is to, as the client, is to invest as much as you possibly can. If you're serious about what your goal is, invest as much as you possibly can, usually just in time, in pouring into that, giving as much information, being as open and honest and transparent with how you're feeling, whether you're happy with the way that things are going, if you're not happy, if your goals change, any of that stuff, it's all valid. And the coach's job is never to judge. The coach's job is to take in all this information, to observe it, to learn from it, and then collaboratively with the client to help them move again from where they are to where they want to go. So if you stay on that bridge, stay in the relationship, you're going to continue to make progress on a long enough time frame to do that, right? So going back to your example here of 4.5 years to make it to the games, were there deviations? Were there, like, I know people that are only listening can't see this, but imagine I'm on an X and Y axis and I'm just kind of going up, from the start. That's not how progress is actually done. Mm-hmm. If you were to zoom way out, that might be what you see on Jay's trajectory, right? It's like, oh, I started here and I moved up. But when you zoom in, there is all these pockets and fallbacks, and you're going to continue. Same thing in business, same thing in life. You're going to take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's why Paula Abdul's song in the 90s killed it with that. I don't know if you've ever heard that song, but anyways, it's a great music video. I would encourage all of you guys to go watch it. Anyways.
I know her from American Idol.
Yeah. Anyways, so you have to balance your expectations from a client perspective with the actions that you are comfortable taking. And here's what I mean by that. If you have a really, really aggressive goal, it's not fair to the coach or to yourself to only put in, or to expect to only put in the bare minimum amount of work, right? However, the bare minimum, like what we call a minimum effective dose, is actually what you should be focused on doing. And so what that means is that you need to stretch out the timeline that you have for whatever goal it is, because that's going to allow more room for things to kind of, take a step back, have some more learnings happening, go take 3 or 4 steps forward. Now it's only 1, 1.5, 2 steps back, and continue to move forward. There's a lot more room for error and for long-term sustainable growth that way. So I don't know if that answered any part of the question that you just asked, but that was kind of
still valuable information. Yeah. I don't even remember the question I asked.
Yeah. So what do I need to do to prepare for the Open? Talk to your coach. Be consistent. Be patient. Be realistic. Like I had to have a conversation with a gym owner a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about the programming that he was doing for his gym and conversations he was having with his clients and getting them ready and all that kind of stuff. And how do I talk to this? Because I'll just throw out a name. Sally, is really excited. She feels like the Open rolls around this year. She's gonna get that muscle up. And I asked a very black and white question. Does Sally have a pull-up? No. Does Sally have a dip? No. Don't even entertain that conversation of a muscle up then.
Yeah.
And that's not to poop on potential. That could be like a meme.
Yeah.
That's not to say that I'm making a judgment, but like that's biology, that's physiology, and it's also good coaching, because let's just say that all the stars aligned, the yelling was loud enough, the clouds came in and lifted her up and over those rings, and a muscle up happened, Am I a fan of that? No, I'm still not a fan of that, because long term that's going to do nothing but encourage dysfunction.
Yeah.
So anyways, so be consistent, talk to your coach, be realistic, all those things. The other thing to consider too is, being in preparation for the Open, is that in alignment with your goals? Like your reason for exercising. Because for those that are thinking about the Open, remember this, the last Open that we did I know we kind of talked about this, but you remember when the last Open was?
Yeah.
The 2020 Open was actually in 2019.
About a year and a half ago.
So, yeah. So, what have you been doing the last year and a half?
Right.
So, if it hasn't been in preparation, to being as prepared as you can for the Open, don't tell yourself a story that your goal is to prepare for the Open.
And if it is, and you didn't approach us, like Stephanie said something so well yesterday when we were talking about this, and like we're just like, well, you know, like I wanted to do well in the open, and I thought I was preparing every time I came in here and talked to you guys, but I guess now I never explicitly said it. It's like if you never explicitly said it, like we're not gonna know. We're not gonna be able to. Yeah, we're not mind readers. We're not gonna be able to help you if we don't know. That's like someone coming in and say they're, you know, already a real low body fat percentage. We'll say 9% body fat. And they're like, I kind of have the goal of getting to 8. But it's like, all right, well, when did you decide that goal?
Right.
36 months ago, but I never told you. It's like,
yeah.
Well, I can't help you if you don't tell me.
Yeah.
Help me help you.
Jerry Maguire.
That's right.
So the other thing to consider is somebody could have just heard about it today. So we have to be aware of this as coaches and professionals in the fitness coaching industry. Somebody may have just heard about it, like literally today. Like, I want to do that. I want to do that thing, and I want to do as best as I can. Cool. Come talk to the coach. You know, if it's me, I don't know about you. You might have a different perspective, but if it's me, we're going to sit down and I'm going to say, look, from a physical ability standpoint, you are as good today as you are going to be for the open. If you think that you can do more and be better prepared from a physical training standpoint, if you think that you can do more and be more prepared for the open, I want to know where you heard that, because I need to do some work on educating that group that told you that sold you that story, because that's not true. And I'm also here to tell you that that's not. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering, all right, man, I've got less than a month. Like, what else can I do? Can I add some pounds to my squat, to my press? Can I learn to do a couple more pull-ups? No, you can't. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but like, you are as physically prepared. Now, what we can do is give you the best strategy for you for every single workout that comes out. And we've done that every single year of the Open.
And how do you do that? You just talk to the coach.
Yeah, you just talk, and we figure out, well, what are you capable of doing now? And then, depending upon what comes out of the proverbial CrossFit HQ hopper, then we need to have another conversation beforehand to set up the best strategy for you to express your ability as best as you can on game day. The things that you can do to kind of promote you expressing your capabilities the best outside of just good movement practice consistently that you're already doing is look at the other 3 pillars. How are you managing your stress? How is your nutrition? And how is your sleep? So remember, sleep, eat, move, manage. How are you across the other 3? That is going to allow you to maximize your physical expression on game day.
And if you are one of the small, if you are part of the small population that, if you're one of like the 10 people in the gym that actually care about your performance in the open, which we'll get into that here in a couple of minutes, and if you are also a listener of the podcast, so if you're both of those things, and you heard this and it resonated with you, send me a text, send me an email, phone call me, send me a Facebook message, pull me aside in the gym, and tell me if that's something you'd be interested in doing. Is setting up the best strategy for you for each open workout, and we'll make sure we get together and have these conversations. Because I don't want it to roll around, the first open workout, 21.1 or whatever is released, and you go, okay, what's my strategy? It's like, what are you talking about? Like, we haven't talked about where you're at. Like, we gotta analyze where you're at and have this conversation. So if that's something you're interested in, sooner rather than later, we gotta have that conversation.
Yeah, because I'll just jump in real quick because this is important. What we know as coaches is all of the tests that have already showed up. There's a huge data set. So why it's important before the workout even comes out to meet with your coach to figure out what your capabilities are is because there's a list of about 17 movements, probably less now because of the restrictions, but there's a list of movements that we know you need to be capable of doing in this volume, in this time frame, so on and so forth. So.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I've also been saying that over the last probably 2 years now, and it's kind of hit some people kind of hard, myself included, that between now, we're 3.5 weeks out, between now and the start of the Open, you're not gonna get much fitter, if at all.
No, you won't.
If anything, if you're lucky, there's a 1 in maybe 10,000 chance you figure out something in terms of skill development. Oh, okay, that just made it a little easier, if that happens. But in terms of your cardiovascular endurance, your muscle stamina, all of this from now until, we'll say 6-7 weeks from now when the Open's over, your fitness is going to be relatively the same as long as you stay consistent. Because you're just not going to get much fitter. Sorry, there's nothing you can do now that's going to make you better than how you'll perform in the Open, but you can still do stuff now that's going to help you perform your best, if that makes sense.
So here's a couple of quick thoughts. One is something Steph said in the chat is don't get injured. One of the reasons that personally I do well in the Open, relatively speaking, is because I stay injury-free for all 5 weeks, or in this case 3 weeks. But in years past, we've had some people that have been very physically competent, but after week 2, they're done. They've gotten injured, and they've gone so hard that their bodies were not actually as ready as they thought.
Yeah.
And so they pushed the gas pedal so hard in week 1 or week 2, you can't last for 5 weeks. So don't get injured. That's literally the mantra that Jay and I have with each other, because this did happen one year, not because of something he did in training. I'll share that story in a second. But he got injured, and it really dampered his ability to be as ready as possible for the next stage. He was playing around on monkey bars and jumped from one bar to the other and tweaked his shoulder. And so that limited any amount of going overhead work that we had to do for him to be ready. So anyways, don't get injured. Here's another great strategy. Rest Friday, meaning go for a walk. Go for a bike ride for 30 minutes, for 60 minutes. Drink some water, drink a good amount of water, maybe 50% more than you're used to drinking. So if you're used to drinking 80 ounces of water a day, maybe bump it to 100, 120. Drink some water and get more sleep than you normally do.
Oh, please get more sleep.
If you do that, then you're good to go.
Even if you're used to working out on 5 or 6 hours of sleep, if you're a 5:30 a.m.er, you are not going to do better than if you just get your 7 or 8, or even 6.5. Get an extra 15, 30 minutes of sleep. You will do better.
Yeah. So some other thoughts with that sleep thing. It's funny, if you guys have ever seen, I know you have, but when Jay comes in to do his workouts on Saturday morning, he'll usually show up much later than most people, and it looks like he just woke up because he gets at least 10 hours of sleep the night before any big workout. Because why wouldn't you? For him, it really matters, so okay, there you go. But just to kind of back up a little bit more, going back to are you going to get physically better? People want to start training more. We actually scale his training way back leading into the competition for him that matters. Now, I talked about this last time. We don't care about the Open for him. Remember, if you're concerned about the Open, you're not an athlete. If you're looking ahead to the next stage, okay, then the Open doesn't even matter. This is just going to be another workout for him.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Let's hop into the next point, because then I got something to say after that. So, go ahead, because I know you wrote it.
Okay, so the other part to the initial question was, how am I going to be prepared for something like clean and jerk and snatch if we don't see specifically that in the day-to-day programming that we do at the gym? So, couple things. Number one, you have to, and this is something that we've been trying to get better at as a staff of coaches, but we want you guys to think in terms of patterns of movement instead of actual movements. So the snatch and the clean and jerk are derivatives, distilled down. You can distill them down to their basic, fundamental movement patterns. We have squat, hinge, push-pull, carrier, core, but they're squatting movements, they're overhead pushing movements, so on and so forth. So from a primal movement pattern or fundamental movement pattern perspective, yeah, you are actually, because we teach you movement patterns. So when you hinge, you're ready for a clean and jerk. When you squat, you're ready for a clean jerk and snatch. When you put something overhead, we prepare you for that. So, and those movements aren't, it's not like they're super secret or they're super difficult or super technical. But the other thing to consider is just because it exists, say for instance, snatch, clean and jerk, muscle up, doesn't mean that you need to do it. I can say the same thing for the open. Just because it exists doesn't mean that you need to do it. Is it in alignment with your actual goals? If it's not, but you say, well, I still want to do it, okay. You show up and do it. Don't worry about it then. The other thing to consider along that same train of thought is just because you see someone else doing it does not mean that you should be doing it too. Well, I see Katrin handstand walking. I see Noah Olson handstand walking. Like, I should aspire to that. Why? Well, because they're doing it and it exists. So, for them it matters. Like, if they can't do that, they don't get paid.
Right.
Chances are if you do that and spend a lot of time doing that, the reason for you exercising and pursuing fitness is going to go down the toilet. Your quality of life will, diminish. You won't enjoy spending time with the kids and have an ability as great as you could if you pursued those things versus not pursued them. So the example that I wrote down here that I think is funny is like we all learn this idea as kids that just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean that you should. We all learn this when we did something stupid, we blamed our friends. Oh, well, they did it. They were doing it. And then our parents called us out. If your friends jumped off a bridge, would you do it too? If your friends started taking drugs, would you do it too? Because I know there's someone out there, oh, I jumped off of bridges. I would jump off a bridge right now.
Yeah.
Don't be that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, you know what we're trying to say. Stephanie asked another good question, and she says, what do you think about spending time on YouTube, watching videos the night before, good or bad idea? I would say that if you are watching video after video after video, trying to find the right strategy for you, just get with your coach. One, just get with your coach in general. Like, I guess the question is, why are you watching the videos? Like, are you doing it for entertainment, or are you doing it because you're trying to find the right strategy for you? If you're watching it for entertainment and you're watching people knock out the workout and you just want to watch people do it because you care about that and you care about like the sporting aspect of the open, then awesome. Like if that's what you want to watch for your entertainment instead of WandaVision, because that's out right now, you can go watch WandaVision. But go ahead, watch your open videos. If you are watching video after video trying to find out the right strategy, just get with your coach. Just talk to your coach. Like I said, talk to them weeks ago. Talk to them ASAP about getting the right strategy for you so you can be set up for success. Because it's just like everything we've said about like templated programming or anything that is following some sort of generalized approach. Like, it's generalized. Like, it's going to be, and we can be the first to say it because we've put out open strategy videos. But we've put out open strategy videos that are specific to our population. And even then, we've gotten with people the day before or the day of their workout and helped them work through it. If say there's a group of people you like watching that isn't Coaching for Glory, and you want to watch their video and consult with your coach about something you might have learned, that's awesome too. But somewhere along the way, if you are watching it for strategy perspective, the videos, you should probably be approaching your coach rather than consulting these videos, because they're going to know more about you as an athlete and your goals and your intentions and your values and why you're working out more so than the video would.
Yeah. So I don't want to say disagree, but I'm going to maybe draw a bigger line in the sand to Stephanie's question. What do you think about spending time on YouTube watching videos the night before? I say bad idea. And this is going to sound so silly and like so picky, but we've all been down the YouTube rabbit hole, right? What does it look like? Either A, I'm on my phone, slumped over like this, right? Or B, I'm on my computer, hunched over like this. So just from a promoting good posture and position standpoint, I think it's a terrible idea. And trust me, because people are saying, well then, if I want to do the YouTube thing, how should I do it? go to your counter, set up your computer, be in good posture with your standing desk or whatever, and do that, right?
Or do it during mobility.
Or do it during that. But I would say something that's going to promote good posture and position. Now, saying that, I know most people are not going to do that, so it should weed those people out. The other thing to think about, too, is when are you presumably going to do this? Probably late at night, when you would actually be better served to just go to bed earlier, or drink some water, or have a good meal without the distraction of technology and blue light and things like that.
That's a good point.
So there's that consideration. The other one is because now this is the 10th year that we've done it, and I've done all the opens, 10th or 11th year that we've done the open, but I can tell you with 100% certainty that the folks that come in the morning of, that have watched all the YouTube videos, have no idea. They are worse off 100% of the time than if they just would have went to bed or had a conversation with their coach. And this is, I'm not saying this to be self-serving. I'm saying this because I know it to be true. So don't do it.
Don't do it. Not even for entertainment purposes.
No. That I will say something, and to be deliberately self-serving, if we put out a video, watch that one. And it's largely going to be because, like you said, it's specific to the population. You know, you're used to what we're going to be saying, language and all that. But yeah, in general, no. Don't waste your time.
I feel like we're spending a lot of time, and this is something we were talking about yesterday, you, Stephanie, and I. We're spending a lot of time, it can seem like we're just crapping on the open, right? Totally crapping on it. I'll be one of the first to admit, like I mentioned earlier in the show, that, you know, maybe there are maybe 10 people at CFG that care about the open. I'll be the first to admit I'm one of them. I like the sporting aspect. I like doing it. I think it's fun. It might take some deeper diving and digging to figure out why, but I like doing it. So you'll find me doing it. But
Same.
Yeah, it's like you said, you've done all of them. This is going to be the 11th or 12th open. But we just want to remind people, like, your intentions behind it. And I've more recently, now that the open's coming up, I've talked to people that have done it in the past, and I've said, like, hey, you know, just in conversation, like, who are the opens coming up? Did you plan on doing it? And I've had more people tell me, or, which means no,
right,
or no, rather than, oh yeah, I'm excited. Like, I've definitely had my fair share of people say I'm excited. I've had more people say, not, like, because they realize that, I mean, in the long run, it doesn't really matter. And
right.
I don't like phrasing it like that because I think that could upset some people, but it doesn't matter, despite it being fun.
Yeah, and those things can both exist at the same time, right? They're not mutually exclusive. So you can have something that's fun to do and participate in, and also acknowledge that it doesn't really matter, because what that does is it allows you to actually have fun doing the thing.
Yeah.
To me, the open doesn't matter to me, but I still enjoy doing it, and I'm still going to do it, and I'm going to have fun doing it. Like, that's my number one goal whenever I go into it this year and do it. The other thing that I think that, you know, sometimes that we fall prey to is we have to be very conscious. Now, I've made this mistake so many times, but we have to be very conscious as coaches to not project what we find incredibly fun or what really fires us up, to not project that onto everybody else that is in our charge, right? Because we're trusted with really getting them to what their goals are, and not perhaps influencing or persuading them to do something just because we're doing it. Because you'll probably love it, it's the Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
Right?
Uncle Ben said it.
Yeah, Uncle Ben said that. It's from Spider-Man, but Uncle Ben said it, right?
Yeah.
Right. So there's that, and then there's also the consideration, and I think about this just from a business owner perspective, is so much has changed in some ways to, you know, what we're allowed to do with the open based upon restrictions and all this kind of stuff, And also given that like the last open was actually in fall of 2019, like you said, about 18 months ago. So there's all this stuff that's happened. And then also from a consideration that, like you said, how many people are really that enthused about it, right?
Yeah.
The same thing could be said for the trail run. Like we encourage people to do that, you know? Great, you go out and you do it. It's one time. It takes 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and you're done. But the open is a different beast. One thing that I'm probably most excited about this year, though, is it's just 3 weeks. That's it. So if you want to do it, awesome. 3 Saturdays in a row. If you don't, no problem.
Your mom actually asked me about that last night. She said, "Mark, are you excited that the opens? Are you excited or disappointed that the open's only 3 weeks this year?" And I was like, you know what? And I thought about it for a second, and I said, I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was like, I guess if I had to think about it, I was pretty happy because I know by the 4th week, historically,
Yeah.
I've noticed amongst our population, and especially within myself, that by the 4th week, man, you're burnt. You know, you're just like, especially if you're not a professional athlete and you're not trying to qualify for the next level, like, by the 4th week, you're like, is this over yet?
Right.
Because your body's tired, you feel like you have an obligation to be somewhere. So I think the 3-week format, although it isn't as much, more is not better, although it's not as much as it was in the past, I think it's going to be real good because you'll get your 3 weeks in. It's probably going to be something like the same amount of events. So you're going to get the same amount of work in, less time, and then you can brush it aside and move on. Unless you make it into that top 10%, which if you're there, it's probably a goal of yours, and you do a couple more weeks, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked that it's 3 weeks because I know by the end of that, or by the beginning of that 4th week, I'm like, are we done yet, man? Are we done?
Well, and what's interesting that you have that observation just for our little community here, that's what CrossFit headquarters actually sees globally too, is by the time the 3rd week rolls around, or after the 3rd week is done, like participation takes a massive plummet. So I'm sure that partly played into the decision, but also just, you know, what the world is. I know people think that they see us in Florida, and Florida is in a different world all on its own with, you know, the response to all the stuff that's going on, but a giant portion of the world, so to speak, is still very restricted and in some places shut down.
Yeah.
So there's that big consideration they have to take into as well. So I hope that answered. The last little nudge, I know we already hit on this, but I did want to slide this one in one more time, is if you are really serious about getting better at the snatch or clean and jerk, go to the snatch plank, because that's really going to be the best use of your time and resources.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
That's all I got for today. That's it.
We're 2 minutes early.
Boom.
Enough time to clean up and get
me.
your heart out.
Right.
Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, whether it was listening to the video or listening to the audio. This was episode 66, I think, of the Art